Good morning, everybody. In any event, it's morning here in the Netherlands and the sun is shining still. What I'm going to do is try to give you some tips for effective teaching if you have to teach at a distance. Note beforehand, this isn't rocket science. It's things you possibly do, but which maybe need a little bit more emphasis at this moment. This video is based upon a book, Lessons for Learning, which is the translation of a recent Dutch language book, which should be coming out during the summer. The book is a collaboration between myself, Tim Surma, Christel van Hooijwegen, Dominique Sluismans, Gino Kamp, Daniel Muis. Because of the corona pandemic, we're all going through a period that none, or probably most of us in any event, have never experienced. With respect to teaching and learning, kids can't attend school, and we need to help them learn at home. This might last days, no. Weeks, possibly. Months, more probably. Fortunately, online education can offer, to a certain extent, some solutions, but the instructional techniques involved are not completely the same as what we do when we're in the classroom during face-to-face teaching. I'm going to give you a few simple pointers here. I'm not going to teach you how to make online learning, online education. First tip, and maybe the most important advice beforehand, is stick to the essentials. Beware of offering too much new subject matter. And maybe it's even better to concentrate more on maintaining what's already been learned. This is important advice and good to follow. Because if you don't do this, what they've already learned will probably be forgotten. Think of the infamous summer dip, the dip in learning in what's retained after the summer holidays. Okay, tip 2. Frame new subject material that you want students to learn in a larger picture. Clearly indicate what your students should learn and place this in a larger picture so that they have some context. Provide them with what Archibald called ideational scaffolding or anchor points that help them structure the new materials and direct their learning process. 3. Refer to relevant prior knowledge that the students already have or that they can look up if it's not ready at that moment. The most important factor in learning new things is what one already knows. Make sure that students know what specific prior knowledge is expected of them and where they can find it if it's no longer in their heads. Where can they go if they no longer understand certain concepts, have forgotten certain formulas, or if previously acquired skills no longer work? 4. Communicate concrete goals and or success criteria with the subject matter. Obviously, the goals and expectations that you have for your students are clear for you. But students don't always find clear what exactly is expected of them and to what level they should learn it or master it. Help them, tell them, use clear goals and criteria. 5. Have students study a detailed example before starting the exercises. One way to use examples is to use the worked out example. That's a problem or an exercise where the solution is completely worked out step by step. Then you can remove steps one at a time until they're actually doing it themselves. Another type of example is called the modeling example. You can carry out the task yourself, maybe in a YouTube or in a Zoom video or in a Loom video, and during the solution process, constantly also tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it. 6. Offer students support during practice. Not everyone understands what you're teaching them immediately. It's important to realize this so that you have alternative routes and examples already ready just in case. Do your best to match the knowledge and skills of your students with what they need to learn. And use scaffolding to support them and to decrease this as they better understand the material. I understand this can be really difficult under the current circumstances. 7. Have your students actively process the subject matter. Studying the subject matter isn't enough. You need to give them assignments that activate the processing of the material. Have them elaborate, expand upon things. Use it. Formulate questions to get them thinking. Think of questions about what, where, who, when, why, how something happens, something works. You could call these epistemic questions. Here too, make sure that students can improve their answers after working on it. Goes immediately to number 8. Let students find out whether they've mastered the subject matter. Have your students, after practicing, after doing something, make a kind of practice test with which they can check whether they've mastered the learning materials. Research clearly shows that taking a practice test, we call this retrieval practice, leads to better learning and retention than, for example, rereading the materials. But it also gives the learner insight into whether she or he has really understood the material. This last is really important because as a teacher, you're not present with the student to check for that understanding. 9. Provide students with adequate feedback on what they've done. It's important that students receive this feedback on their answers. This can be done in a corrective way. For example, this is wrong, the answer should have been, or better is directive. The answer is wrong, you should have solved it in this way, let's go through it again. Or even epistemic, if you and your students are up to it, that's, oh, I didn't expect that answer. How did you get that answer? Would the answer have been different if you had taken this, that, or the other thing into account? And finally, spread exercise across time. If you're presenting new subject matter, don't do it all in one long session, one 45-minute or 1 hour session, but use a number of shorter sessions and return to them at later moments. This is called the spacing effect. Research shows that it's much more effective to spread practice and learning over time than to do it all at once. So, in a nutshell, keep it short. Try not to do what you normally do in a face-to-face class in your online class. Prepare well. Know what you're going to say, and don't change it too much during the class. Provide structure. List what students should do, and see if they've done it. Prepare your students. If you're going to talk about something, prepare them beforehand by stimulating their prior knowledge. Give short assignments both before and after, and let them submit it to you. It's not complicated or profound, but things that they can do in a few minutes and that you can use to see that they're well prepared beforehand and that they understand things afterwards. And finally, make use of the online resources that are available. Don't try to do something better in an evening than that which has been done well by someone else. I hope this helps you a little bit in these trying times. If you want to know more about what constitutes good teaching for effective, efficient, and enjoyable learning, you might want to read a book I recently wrote with Carl Hendrick, How Learning Happens, Seminal Works in Educational Psychology, and What They Mean in Practice. This book is available from Routledge, Taylor and Francis, but also via Amazon. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope that it helps a little bit, and I wish you all the success in the world in these troubled and trying times.